Just before the break, I was talking with my mother about her experiences when she came here, and I spent the greater portion of the first part of the show talking about my own self. But what was it like for you to come here at age 14?
Well, at age 14, with the background I just described to you, it was very difficult because I wasn't used to doing anything. You know, girls weren't supposed to do anything, really, you know, except be wallflowers, I guess. I don't know. But no, we did a lot of reading and so on. But I was put in a 5th grade class. And of course, I didn't know any English at all. And besides not knowing the language, a whole new culture was in front of me. I had to help with housework, which I had never done. And all of these things, you know, at age 14 are very difficult, you know, very difficult. And then being in the 5th grade, the children were about 10 years old. Well, here I was 14, somewhere 9 years old. And of course, they were laughing at me most of the time because I didn't understand English. I didn't understand what they were saying, you know. And, but I think that the thing that helped me was that I was laughing with them. I found it funny. You know, I didn't get angry or hurt or anything. I just found it funny that this brand new language was being spoken to me, and I didn't know what they were saying.
You know, the language problem is a very difficult one because...
oh, yes, definitely.
And we'll talk more about that later, but we do have some... a show like this wouldn't be complete without some old pictures, and we do have some old pictures. So I'd like to take a look at them one at a time and have you tell us exactly what we are seeing. We do have one of those, and we'll see it. There we are.
Oh, yes. Well, that's my father, whom I mentioned before was an attorney, and my father's second wife, my brother, and myself. And as you can see, we were all very elegantly dressed. This was, somewhere in the early 20s, I guess.
You know, it's something about pictures like that because, you know, there's so many stereotypes that people, I think, have of anybody who's south of the border. And in that picture, we saw very clearly that you were dressed in the Victorian dress of the day, you know, very, with the little Mary Jane shoes and the little petticoat and everything. And we have another picture of you when you were a little girl, and let's take a look at that.
Oh. Well, actually, that picture, I think, must have been taken the very same year. And I am there in full Indian regalia. And it isn't that we dressed that way, because you already saw the other picture. But this here was, this happens once a year in Guatemala. Parents dress their children in little Indian costumes to celebrate the Virgin of Guadalupe, her feast day. So we call her La Virgen Morena. So she is Indian. She's part of our culture, you see. And although I don't have any Indian blood, and still Guatemala has 3/4 Indian population, you see. But we
so
have the same costumes, you know, the custom is there, and so it's just a day to dress your children as Indians in honor of the Lady of Guadalupe.
But you didn't always dress like that. That was a costume.
No, that's just once a year, and I think it's the 8th of December, every 8th of December.
Now, you were talking about when you came here, you were 14 years old, and you went to school, and you were admitted to the 5th grade, and we have a picture of that. So let's take a look at that as well.
Oh, yes. Well,
now, you're over in the far left corner, and the second row that's standing up.
Right, next to that boy with a black sweater.
Right.
So you can see, you can appreciate there how I felt about it. Some of those children, I don't think were 8 years old. I don't know. Some of them looked to me quite young. But in any event, here I was, we might say a young lady. At least I felt like I was a young lady at 14, especially, you know, with the culture that I had had. And here I am with these little children, not knowing their language. They were laughing at me. I was laughing with them. So it was funny, but still it was sad, you know, because I think that when a foreigner comes, they should have special classes, English classes for them, you know, because how could I do the work of a fifth grader, keep up with their subjects, you know, just current subjects, doing everyday homework when I didn't know how to speak the language, you see. So
what did you do
really
then?
bad. What did I do then? Well, I couldn't do much of anything. I didn't do anything.
You just picked it up as you went along?
I just had to pick it up as I went along, and I developed my own system that I would listen and try to repeat things as they sounded to me. Of course, that didn't help writing any, because, you know, English, you write it one way and you pronounce it another way, you
right,
see.
Right.
So, but it did help me. At the time, it was a great help. And I had a good ear for it, and that's how I learned it, you see.
You know, there are a few pictures in the family album that always, always stuck out. And it's funny, until doing this show, I had never really asked you about the history of those pictures. And one of those pictures shows you in an announcing booth. And why don't we take a look at that?
Oh, yes. Well, years later, this happened years later, I decided, well, as a young girl, I was always fascinated by Hedda Hopper and Luella Parsons, you know. It was a romantic age, we might say. The stars were made so glamorous and everything was Hollywood, you know. And I was young and I was impressed by them. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go back to Guatemala and do something big. I wanted to be in radio. And I thought, oh, here it is. So I went back, and I lived with my brother, who by that time, he was already a full-fledged attorney, like my father. It's sort of a tradition, you know. And so I organized my material, and then I made an appointment with the director of the station. And he liked my material, and I thought, oh, fine. But, he said, you have to have a sponsor, because the time is bought, you know, and I have to have a salary. So in order to make money for myself and for them, I had to go out and find a sponsor. Well, that was very hard to do. I called on many business men and companies, and no one wanted. They liked the idea, fine, but they didn't want to put out the money. So finally, I found a pharmaceutical company who were willing to sponsor me.
And what was the name of the show?
The name of the show, well, I had to give it a name, so it was Genie and the Stars.
And you critiqued all that was happening in Hollywood for people in Guatemala.
Yes, indeed. And they gave me a 6 months contract, and they said if the show went over, they would renew the contract for 6 months, sponsor me for 6 months. And the show went big.
You know, there's two other pictures that I'd like to take a quick look at because they also stood out in my head very much in the family album. And beauty contests are very much a part of American culture. And I always thought that's what this picture was, but it wasn't. So why don't we take a look at this picture and you tell us exactly what it is.
Yes, but this is Pan American Night, and it's a very big day for the Pan American countries, because it represents good neighbor, you know, it's a policy of good neighbor, countries working together with the United States. So what happens here is that the consul chooses a young woman who he feels will be the best representative of his country. And you were chosen. I happened to be chosen, and it was an honor.
There's one more picture and that I'd like to take a look at, and that is with yourself and Kirk Douglas, somebody I've always wanted to meet.
That was part of the whole thing. We were guests at the studio with Kirk Douglas, and he entertained us that afternoon, and that was part of that.
Yeah, well, Mom, thank you. The time has been very short, but I think we've gotten a sense of some of the experiences that you had when you came here.
It has been a pleasure for me being with you, my own child.
Okay, we're going to take a break now, and we'll be right back, and I'll be talking with my grandmother and my great-grandmother, so be back with us in just a moment.